Here's another frequently asked question. Why do we at Blood and Iron and in historical European martial arts in general tend to place our offhand either on the hip or behind the back when we're doing sparring or cutting practice with one-handed swords? So there are reasons, and looking fancy is not one of them. In other martial arts you have different approaches. For example, in Filipino martial arts, stick fighting and sword fighting, they tend to be very close, pretty much toe-to-toe, and they use both hands a lot. So they may, deflect an incoming attack by actually brushing the opponent's arm to the side with their own left arm and then counterattack on their own. So in HEMA, we don't do that. We prefer to be as far away from the opponent as our reach allows us. And there is definitely some sniping to the hands and other limbs involved. And if you have the hand out here as you're fighting, this is another target. So if a cut comes through past your defense, say you're in a high guard and they slip a cut underneath and you don't react in time, a cut that would have missed your chest, especially when you take a step back, a retreating step, a cut that would have missed your chest may still hit the hand when it's right there. And also a cut that would be superficial on the chest would hit the hand pretty much full. While you're focused on your opponent and what's happening, and you're parrying and counterattacking and sidestepping and thrusting and all of that, there's a lot of things to keep track of course. If you have the hand here, it may eventually just move more and more without you realizing. It may kind of hover, and you may make extra movements and such, and then eventually it may end up right here, and then they can just pop your hand right there when they couldn't otherwise attack your body. So it's just an additional target. It's of course not a primary target, but the opponent takes what they can get basically, and you want to do the same. So even if you don't end up using your left hand during that fight, of course the pain of a cut and the blood loss and so on would still affect you, and it's kind of nice to keep all of your 5 fingers, right? So you just don't want to have that available as another target. So that's why we would put it either on the hip or on the back. And we don't do what you see in Chinese sword fighting, where the offhand has a tendency to always kind of follow along, and it can be on the wrist, and sometimes they even push on the wrist to make the cut more powerful, almost like kind of a hybrid two-handed grip, if you will. So since we're not doing that, there is no particular reason. We do, of course, grapple. So if you get very close with your opponent to where you can actually reach out and touch them, then you may start to wrestle. So at that case, of course, from here the hand is right there, so it's a bit quicker, but it doesn't make a world of difference really. From here I can still bring the hand forward really quickly, and it's actually not that terribly much slower than going from here. Extremely minuscule difference really in speed, and it's a personal preference whether you put the hand on the hip or on the back. On the back I personally find a little awkward, so I just prefer having it here. And it also, personally, it gives me a bit of a sense of stability to have the hand here. It's also a way to remind yourself to remain upright, because in HEMA you don't want to do this. You don't want to lean forward because that compromises your structure, makes you more vulnerable to cuts. You want to stay upright during the cuts. So this is a way, kind of a reminder to remain upright as you're moving and as you're cutting. So I hope that answered the question, and thanks for watching. Let's end the video with a more how.